I'd also like to call Planning Advisory Committee to order. I want to welcome our public member, Sam Balcom, and we have regrets from public member Pam Harvey this morning. I'd like to begin by the historical acknowledgement. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are in the Mi'kmaq and the district of Spaganagity, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. East Hants further acknowledges the 50 African Nova Scotia communities whose 400-year history has contributed to the province's culture, history, and legacy. We are all treaty people. Approval or amendments to our agenda. Get a chance to look at it. Okay, if seeing none, I approve the agenda. Approval of the minutes of November 18th, 2025. You go.
Just declare. Sorry.
Warden Rolston.
No, my apologies, no.
Seeing none, I approve the minutes of November 18th. Councilors, there's only one item on the agenda for planning advisory this morning. PLN 25008, KC Concrete Limited, DA application, final report. You can begin, Debbie, when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the applicant is Casey Concrete Limited. They own property at 57 Lona Street in Hardwood Lands and is outlined here in red. The subject property and their adjoining properties are Business Park, BP zone, and this zone permits asphalt, aggregate, and concrete plant uses by development agreement, and the applicant is proposing to enter into a development agreement to permit a pre-mixed concrete batch plant on these lands. So there's already a precast factory on the site, and there is a heavy equipment mechanic in the smaller building on the site. Adjacent to the subject site is the ready mix plant that's currently in operation. So the proposal is to add a 60-foot by 40-foot building onto the northwest corner of the existing site. The addition of the pre-mixed concrete batch plant will allow the precast factory to mix its own concrete batches on site rather than having to transport the concrete by truck from a ready mixed concrete plant. So again, this is just showing the existing building and then the addition of the building and the mixers. And again, here's another image of the subject property, a satellite image. So this is on the adjoining lands, and that's the existing ready-mix concrete plant, which just operates during the summer hours, or summertime. And then this is the existing site with the existing building. There's the addition. This is the heavy equipment engineer. This is Lonis Street right here, and then the Highway 102 runs along this property line, and then their property ends about right along here. And again, this is just a 3D model of the proposed development. This is a picture of the subject property. Again, the existing precast factory and the heavy equipment mechanic. And then this is Lona Street looking north and Lona Street looking south. So Nova Scotia Public Works has indicated that a negative impact to the provincial road network is not anticipated, and during the initial presentation to PAC, staff were asked how dust might impact the surrounding lands and if the concrete plant at 67 Lonis Street was to remain open, and the applicant has indicated that the concrete plant at 67 Lonis Street will remain operational, and because that plant serves the local ready mix requirements, and the new batch plant will only supply the precast plant. So, and there was a concern regarding dust, and the applicant explained that the aggregate bins and mixer will be located inside the building, so there will be limited dust created, whereas the existing place at 67 Lona Street is currently outside. And I should note that there is already dust being created on the site because of the 67 Lona Street, and when trucks move around the precast products that they've made on the site. So we sent 20 questionnaires out in the mail and 2 responses were received. One of the concerns raised was about the amount of vibration of the proposed precast concrete plant. And the applicant has indicated that the new plant will have limited vibration because the plant is a conveyor system and a mixer. And that he said it's similar to what would be used for baking on a bigger scale, and there's no high-speed equipment that would create vibration. Also, I should note that there is the precast facility already on the subject lands, which could already be creating vibration. And again, the existing ready mix plant on the adjacent lands, which isn't housed, which is not inside of a building. So we have the process here. We're going to a public hearing next week. And the recommendation is that final consideration and approval be given to enter into a development agreement. And the recommended motion is below. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Debbie. Councilor Marion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to staff. Debbie, thank you for the report. Looks like a good initiative for the area. And we had a quick chat about this morning, but just wanted to pick on a few things. And as I understand it from the information provided, that there were some concerns raised about dust, vibration, wind direction, hours of operation, environmental approvals, storm water runoff management. I wanted to pick up on one of them a little bit more, and that would be related to dust. And from the report, IM 29C speaks to provisions for adequate buffering and screening. The response provided in the report is the adjacent uses are also industrial uses on land zoned business park. No buffering or screening is required. In light of some of the feedback that we did receive, I'm just wondering, Debbie, could you provide perhaps some additional insights on I guess that position about no further buffering or screening being required, and perhaps just adding a little more perspective on that, please.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the business park zone, under the land use bylaw as of right regulations, does not require buffering in between industrial uses. If, for example, there was a residential use adjacent to the subject property, then a buffer would be required. However, that doesn't prohibit council from deciding that they would like to have a vegetative buffer or any other type of buffer between this development and the adjacent developments. It could be added into the development agreement. So just because the land use bylaw doesn't require one doesn't mean you can't require it in your development agreement. And the reason why it's not required is because for most part, industrial uses do tend to have tend to clear the land all the way, and they have similar and like uses. For example, we have across the way here, there's a lumber plant, and as I mentioned, the ready mix concrete plant, and then Happy Harry's here, and there's some other industrial uses in the site as well.
And I think, thank you, Debbie, and through the chair back to you. I think there might have been an earlier photograph that you shared focusing on the vegetative barrier on the northeastern boundary of the yard. Yeah, I guess here the perspective would be over there. And again, just given some of the nature of the feedback received, I'd like to offer, I don't know if it's an amendment or a new motion, but I'll try it, that the vegetative buffer remain in place on the northeastern boundary of the yard. Something along those lines?
To you, Mr. Yep, that can be added if PSU would like to have it added.
Is that something on the DA you could add without
Yes,
any
we can.
problems?
So I am making that motion. Is it more appropriate as an amendment or as a separate motion?
I don't,
Do,
there's no motion.
There's no motion on
Oh,
the floor as
correct.
yet.
Correct. So may I make that as a standalone motion?
Yes, you can.
Thank you. I just need a seconder.
Seconded by Councilor McPhee. You want to repeat the motion, Councilor?
I'd like to move that the vegetative buffer remain in place on the northeastern boundary of the yard.
Okay, Councilor, Deputy Warden.
Is there something wrong with the system?
Councilor Tingley?
Through the chair to staff, well, my first question would be how big is that buffer? And what is that buffer going to accomplish as far as dust?
through you, Mr. Chair, I'm not quite sure how deep the buffer is there. And as far as its accomplishments, it could cut down on some of the dust that's created on site. Just having some vegetation sometimes allows to break some of the wind that passes through, so it might not carry it over to the adjacent lands.
Okay,
Is that all, Councilor?
that's it.
Thank you. Let's go to Kitty. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed.
Okay.
Okay. Just a heads up, we have problems with the mics, and when you press to speak, it's not coming on, so
The mic is coming right
mics,
on.
it's coming on red instead of the flashing green.
Your mics are live.
They're live.
Alden's is on now, is it supposed to be?
I know, does it want to speak?
The problem is when we press the button to request to speak, the request to speak is not lighting up. The mic is coming on. So
Councilor Head.
Thank you, sir. I will move the recommended motion. Planning Advisory Committee recommends the council give final consideration and approves entering into a development agreement for a pre-mixed concrete batch plant use located on property identified as PID 451-77128, 57 Lona Street, Harwood Lands, signed within 1 year of council's approval.
Second.
So moved to second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously. That concludes planning advisory for this morning. So, do I need a motion to adjourn? So I declare it adjourned, and we'll go to corporate and residential service with Chair Councilor Garden Cole. Thank you, Sam. Enjoy the weekend and happy holidays.
microphones are fixed, everybody.
And everyone has to sign in again. I believe the mics are now fixed.
Okay. We shall see. Okay, we'll call Corporate and Residential Services to order. Be looking for any changes to the minutes of November 18th, 2025. Seeing no changes, the minutes are adopted. Our first item is presentation with EH Farmers Market Cooperative Limited and Ashley Kopach. And you can go ahead.
All right, sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Kopach, and I am the founder of the East Hants Farmers Market. And I wanted to come in today to give you an overview and introduction to our organization and our goals over the next year or so. And so I just have an agenda here. I'll give a quick introduction to myself and the market. We'll talk about the 2025 pop-up markets we've been doing with the Sportsplex. I'll tell you a bit about our community feedback we've gotten so far. Sorry about that. And I'll talk a bit about our plans for the 2026 season. I'll give a quick overview of our budget for this year and next year. We're working with Joe to submit a community partnership fund application, so I'll briefly go over that, and then there'll be time for questions and answers as appropriate. So my name is Ashley, and I am from Spaghetti, and I now live in Ryan's Creek with my family. I've lived here my entire life. My background is nutrition and education and not-for-profit in the sustainable development and environmental space. And I really wanted to bring a farmer's market to my community. It's something that I really wanted, and when I would visit friends and family, we'd go to theirs, and it was something I wanted to bring home to my own community. And so the market was founded in 2025. We have a board of directors of East Hants community members. There's 5 of them from Sipekne'katik, Ryan's Creek, Enfield, and Shubenacadie. And so our goal is to bring local goods directly to the consumers in the community, to help build a sense of community and to reduce some costs for food and other locally made goods, and enhance some food security in the community. And so our board of directors meets quarterly, and anybody from the community is welcome to join as they're interested. And so in June, I emailed Joe to talk about the Community Partnership Fund, and she connected me to Scott and Crean at the Sportsplex. And they had the idea that they wanted to do a farmer's market, but they didn't quite have the capacity. So we were able to plan 3 pop-up markets. So these were in October, November, and then the third one is this Saturday at the East Hants Sportsplex. And so council was very generous and donated the space for us to use, as this is our first year and we have no outside funding. So you can see in October, we had 755 visitors come into the Sportsplex for the market. We had 18 vendors filling 26 tables, and all but 2 vendors gave us their sales data sheets, so there was about $4,000 kept within the community there. And then in November, we had 520 visitors with 22 vendors, 33 tables, and over $6,000 were kept within the community in this event on local foods, arts and crafts, and prepared food as well. So I just have some photos here of some of our vendors with some art, some food, and you can see Pacey there at the bottom with his art, which was really lovely and popular. And so if you want to see some more photos, you can see in the Laker there, Pat has put together a story from the November market. And then on our social media, we have on Facebook over 700 followers and on Instagram over 70. And our total reach from the last 2 months, we've reached about 60,000 folks who are interested in seeing the market. And our feedback from online specifically is that people seem excited about it, they want to go. People will comment on our posts, I bought really great jam, I'm excited to have it, I'll be back next time. And we haven't put any money into any advertising so far, this has all been organic online reach. So this Saturday is our final pop-up market for the year. It'll be on the 13th, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Sportsplex. Kareen was very helpful in finding some more spaces, we could put some more tables, so now we have 30 vendors filling 39 tables, and it is a holiday time market, so it is quite popular. So we have about 12 waitlisted vendors as well. Overall feedback, people seem very excited. They like that it's not just a craft market, they really love the integration of food and beverages as well. The space is really welcoming. We've had live music at the last event and that was very popular. The vibe in the Sportsplex is lovely, all the natural light is coming in. It's a very central location. A lot of folks said they had never been to the Sportsplex before, but they were very impressed by the facility. Roxy's was very busy. People really liked to have the option for hot beverages and food. It was noted that we needed a bit more signage at the October event, so we did put together some outdoor signs and some more indoor signage for the November and December markets. So our plans for the next year, we would like to have a monthly market. This was very popular with the vendors, and they said that maybe a weekly market would be too much for them, but they could definitely commit to a monthly market. It would be ideal to have in the warmer seasons an outdoor market, and then indoor in the colder months like we've been doing. We anticipate 30 to 35 vendors at each market based on the numbers we've had so far. We would really love to continue to use the Sportsplex space as appropriate, as people seem to really enjoy it and does fit the space very well. And so we don't have any outside funding at this time as we are exploring options as a new not-for-profit organization. So we are working with Joe to submit a community partnership fund application for those core upfront expenses for the next fiscal year. So for this year, our total budget was $1,360. So far, we've been able to raise $561. And then the difference of $800 I've been funding personally, because this is just something I really truly believe in. And so we use that income to purchase signage and insurance for the market. And then 2026, our projected budget is a little over $8,000, you can see up there. And we're hoping that if we are completely booked with vendors, we sell all our promotional items and sell one basket, we can make a profit about $5,000 that we can put into the market in the following year to reduce some of those upfront costs. And so our community partnership fund is asking for a donation of the space totaling about $3,600. Aaron was able to put a quote together for us, as well as just under $2,000 in upfront expenses like a membership to the Farmers Market of Nova Scotia, our market insurance, and some of those things that come up front that we aren't able to have that lump sum in the beginning for. And then moving forward, we're hoping that any profits from the 2026 season will cover those moving forward. And everything here will be outlined in our application. We are working to update it after our December market on Saturday, so we'll send an update to Joe. And you can look forward to seeing that. So that is everything I have. Thank you for your time, and I am happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Okay, thank you. And the warden would like to speak.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to hear of the success that you're enjoying. Certainly supportive of the ask. Not being an expert in all things grant-wise that Joe is, but I would make a motion that this request be forwarded to budget discussions and, to see where it might fit. And I don't know if it's community partnership or general government grants, but Joe will be able to figure that out. So I would move that the farmer's market request be sent to be included in the budget for budget discussions.
Okay, motion is made and seconded. On before the motion is Counselor Mitchell.
Thanks for the presentation. I'm hoping to get some tasty treats going forward in 2026. Just a question on your vendors. How many vendors would be from the East Hants area, or they're just the circular from East?
We are giving preference to vendors that are in the East Hants area. Most of them are. We have one from Truro last time, but most of them are from East Hants.
Thank you.
Thank you. Warden, I would just like to make a comment as well, if you wouldn't mind taking the chair. So I am definitely a supporter of this. As you say, when I go to the cottage in Tatamagouche or I go to a family member in the Valley area, we always make a point of going to the farmers markets there and in Annapolis Royal. I think they are a big attraction for people, and the reputation gets out, that it's happening. And yeah, I just think that it's a really positive thing for the area, and it brings money to the area, and also the vendors. I think it's just a win-win. So I look forward to discussing this further in the budget season. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? We'll go to the vote. Waiting for someone to vote.
There we go.
And the motion is passed unanimously. I'll turn the chair back to you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. Next on our agenda is the procurement application pilot with Adam and Mike. You can go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just getting organized here. I was a little distracted with our gingerbread house competition, which we'll talk to council on the break here. So I'm just going to pull up the report here. And actually, Shirley, if you wouldn't mind pulling up the report, yes, please. That would be helpful. Okay, thank you. Good morning. So what we have in your package today that you would have seen is really, it's an opportunity for our sector. One of the municipality's values is innovation. And about 5 years ago, our municipality, with our procurement officer, Michael Hatfield, and our system analyst, Christian, built a procurement application for municipal use, which allows us to take electronic bids online. During COVID, we actually have stopped taking bids in person, and it's all vetted through an online process that was built in-house and is very seamless. And throughout the year, we often get inquiries from other municipal units. Well, where did you buy this? What did you do? And it's like, well, we did it ourselves. And it's very intuitive, and we get a lot of feedback from the vendors of how simplistic it is from the vendor side. So it's not really a core service in the municipality to provide this to other municipalities, but we really have this tool that we don't know what to do with, but we know it can bring value to the municipal sector should we choose to. And so in your report today, we had Valley Waste reach out to us a while ago, and they're made up of 5 or 6 municipal units, and they don't have a lot of procurements throughout the year, but they really wanted to have access to this tool. So we kind of did a walkthrough with them with no commitments, and we wanted to come to council to have this conversation to see if we could essentially pilot it, but it's more see if we could leverage this tool to them, and then we would want to take a step back and see how do we move this into the sector should we want to. This is basically based on a cost recovery. It's very little cost. to do so, but there is potentially a revenue side of it down the road, long-term, because we're looking at this kind of organically. How do we move this forward? Should we even choose to move it forward? The municipal sector, we know AMANS has a municipal website venture. They could be a partner in the future to have them kind of oversee it, or it's something we may just take a step back at and just keep doing our thing as a municipality and whatnot. So today, the decision point that we're looking for from committee is, are you comfortable wanting us to explore this tool for our sector with Valley Waste? And I think the recommendation in the report is on a cost recovery model. We've looked at kind of the internal pieces we would need to move forward in agreement with them to protect ourselves and mitigate risks. We're not providing a software. I just want to make that clear. It's more of it's a service that we have that we could do. It's independent from municipality, and there would be no service level commitments, and that's really important for us to acknowledge. I mean, and municipalities typically, I mean, we're 24-hour operations, but procurement is typically a Monday to Friday type of service. So this is, we're not setting ourselves up to have a service level agreement or anything like that. It's what you see is what you get. We're not modifying what we have. There's no, we've been very clear, we're not doing feature requests. Right? It's what you see is what you get. Here's the service. And over the last 5 years, there's been very few inquiries that have come in. Most of them have to do with the user and their cache and their website browser that they're using. There's not really been any hiccups with our system. Coincidentally, though, the value that running it through with Valley Waste, they actually found a little bug for us. So that would benefit us because we corrected it. So there's value two ways that way, but it's a very smooth system, very little hiccups, and it's very intuitive. So the check-in with council today is, do you want us to explore this for the value of the sector, or do we just keep doing what we're doing as a municipality? And we know we have competing priorities, and this is not a priority. Our core mandate is our priority, but this is something that we could help bring forward. And should it yield positive results, we come back to council with kind of what those next steps are, whether it's from a municipal side or whether it's a partnership with someone like AMANS, and that's too early to determine right now. So do you want us to kind of have that further conversation with Valley, or do you want us to pause? Either way, we just think it's something too important not to bring forward to council from the innovation side and the municipal side for us. So I'm just going to pass it back to the chair.
Thank you, Adam. First to speak is Councillor Merriam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And really congratulations. It looks like a really impressive program. Very, leads to great efficiencies, and hats off to having a great homegrown solution. So we appreciate that. No, it's a very interesting report, and I as I read through it, in today's world, when we think of software, I think of all of the bad things that can happen, and there's a lot of bad things that can happen. And a couple that immediately came to mind were, and I know you have an agreement, but that's part of the question. So you think about spreading viruses. You think about a Trojan horse type scenario where a foreign actor uses this to insert themselves into the other party's system, perhaps, causing catastrophic damage on the other end. You look at, through some unforeseen error on our end, stuff happens all the time. The system's down, it needs to be maintained, and it comes at a time when the other party, in this case potentially Valley Waste Management, they're in the middle of some hugely important competition, and suddenly, all lights are out, and there's damage that happens economically where they miss out in some sense. And I know, we have agreements, and things are set in agreements, but sometimes agreements, they're still it could be litigated, and so I guess my first question is, can you I think in your bringing this to us, you're asking for our opinion and, thoughts about moving forward. And I think it does come down to addressing some of these risks. And can you speak to the two that I mentioned? Are they covered in the agreement? Can you speak about other risks that we're mitigating ourselves against, please?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. So two pieces. I'll start, and then Michael may build on to what I've said. So I want to be clear. This is isolated from our municipal system. So this is not integrated with East Hanses. It would be a separate server that the Valley Waste would pay for. So it's actually a copy of our application. It wouldn't be built within our application.
Okay.
So it sits, and I'm not the technical one to speak, but it sits aside from ours. So to around the security piece, there's that. And then around, let's say the lights go out, the power goes out, to your point about there's a big competition out there and the risk associated with that. Well, there is at the end of the day, when things happen, we can extend procurement timelines. So if we run into, it's just like kind of similar to a question period, if we have to, or competition, we would extend it. So we would expect that same sort of approach would be taken in the unlikely event that there was a big failure, but it could happen, that the Valley, for example, would just extend their competition a week or so forth to be able to meet those requirements. So, Michael, is there anything to add into that?
Through you, Madam Chair, the plan is to put it on a separate server, so our system being down should not impact their system at all.
Is it possible, and this is, clearly beyond my technical knowledge, but we put a copy on a separate server, but that copy isn't infected? There's something wrong with it, and then, is there any, virus, Trojan horse wise, is there any way that this could turn nasty?
Through you, Madam Chair, when we were talking to our internal developer, that wasn't something that appeared to be a risk, because it is going to be on a separate server. There's no real touch points back to us. He would go into it and modify whatever he does in ours, he would then transfer over into theirs, so it's more like a push than a pull. We also have explored the idea of insurance, which would be around our responsibilities to them as the client, to speak to your first point. So there are some things we're thinking about doing internally to try and mitigate some of that risk as well.
Could you just tell me a little bit more about what the insurance is for? Who would buy it? What's covered?
Sure. So,
Please.
through you, Madam Chair, we currently have cyber insurance. One of the things that we don't currently buy, because we are not in the business of doing that type of work, is errors and omissions insurance. And errors and omissions insurance is things that we make mistakes on that then might cause harm to others, and that's when that insurance would kick in. So we would buy it. We are waiting for a confirmation of what the cost is. We wanted to get a fresh cost because the nature of the insurance world is such that things can change. And that would be part of our negotiation with Valley. But that's what we would buy it. It would be our insurance that would protect us in the event of them launching an action against us.
And is it possible to provide, kind of a quick synopsis of how some of the risks are addressed in the agreement at this point? I know nothing's probably been finalized, but
Sure. Through you, Madam Chair. Basically, we're providing the access to the application. So that's a distinction that Adam has made already, is we're not selling a software, we're not providing a software, we're providing access to an application. So that distinction is kind of the first mitigation. The second mitigation is that we're providing that access on an as-is basis with no warranty and no service level expectation. So basically, we're being very clear with Valley right from the outset, and we have been sort of through the process of talking to them, that we're not in the business of service level related to software. So if they have if their habit is to work till 8 p.m., we're probably not here if they run into an issue or if they run into a question from a provider that they don't know the answer to. To help mitigate that, though, I've done things internally for our own staff, which are work instructions on how to use the application, common problems we run into, that I've already provided them as sort of say, hey, while you're doing your trial, these are some of the things that you may run across, and those are all already built and available to them. So as is, whereas supports where we can provide them, but those supports are limited to our availability, and there is no level expectation of service level.
okay. Thank you, that's it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Next to speak is Councillor McPhee.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you to staff. A lot of my questions have been answered with the malware and that, but I was thinking, so we're providing a service, we're not providing a software. So is this a licensed program? We have ownership of it?
Through you, Madam Chair, we've built it in-house. It's ours.
Yes.
It's municipalities.
Yeah.
It's not a third party, it's provided by a third party. We are
Yes, I
the
understand.
provider, yeah.
So legally, we have ownership of it?
Absolutely,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
And so we're providing a service to them, so how much staff time will be used up, or any staff time? Will they just simply use the
Yeah.
program through our server and we won't be involved other than if they have a problem?
Yeah, through you, Madam Warden, and it's in independent server, it's not our,
Yes,
but, staff time, there's very little in our day-to-day in the 5 years that we've been running this, staff time that is accounted for. Occasionally there is something, but it's very minor nature, and like I mentioned earlier, it's often on the vendor side where they need to clear their browser, they're not using the most up-to-date, internet service, and it's not really related to us. But we do, being Mike, for his own use and internal, we've done a good job of building out kind of those questions and those frequently asked questions just for our own internal service delivery. So we do kind of have that. We would provide kind of those pieces to Valley as well for them to look at. But there isn't really a lot of staff time, and we're not wanting this to be an onerous process. And if it is, well, then that's our cue to step back because it isn't a priority. I mean, we do see this as potentially a revenue generating opportunity. We're not coming at it from that lens. We're coming at it from the value to the sector, but we need to understand what that could be long-term as well for the municipality. But yeah, day-to-day, for your question, there's not a lot that does come up, and we're setting up those expectations that we're hearing. Chances are, if they do find something with the system, it may actually benefit us too. Like I mentioned during that kind of overview with them, we found a little bug that we just hadn't come across, right? So that benefits us. So there could be value in that as well.
Yeah, so this is just a trial run. I think you just answered my last question, was a revenue, with the idea of maybe getting a revenue stream off of this in the future? If
We
have
want
5
to
or
leave
6
all the
clients?
doors open for council long-term.
Yeah.
We don't want to shut it. This one, we're suggesting council it's a cost recovery so we can work through this. But we do either see a partnership model down the road or looking at a municipal model. But we kind of got to take a baby step to
Yeah.
see and then learn from that and take a step back. And I mean, we could hear back from our insurance and we could just walk right away. If the cost is just too high, that's, probably a deal breaker, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, very good, thank you, that's everything.
Thank you,
Madam
Councillor.
Chair.
Next to speak is the Warden.
Thank you. I was simply going to move the recommended motion that the Corporate and Residential Services Committee recommends that council direct staff to negotiate an agreement with Valley Waste to provide the online procurement application service based on an as-is cost recovery model for the municipality, and provided that the agreement enables the municipality to exit the agreement for any reason with a reasonable notice period.
Okay, moved and seconded. On before the motion is Councillor Rhino.
Hey, Madam Chair, through the staff, you say staff created this? So what protections then, is there similar to a patent, or could that no other group can create something similar and go with that and then compete? Are we protected in that way?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'll give a high-level answer to that question.
Keep it
A lot of the
simple.
coding and I'll try to make it direct, a lot of the coding we use is open source, but it's within our own realm. So we've built it and we have that coding ourselves. If we were to release this, so for example, we took a different approach and said, you know what, Valley, here's our application, here's all the coding, you could do what you want with it, it's open source, it's free for anyone, and it could be then modified and enhanced on their own. They're a smaller unit. So proprietary, it's within the municipality as we've built it with staff time, staff resourcing, and until the coding is released publicly, it's not public. I don't know if that answers the question.
Could then some other municipality do the same, hear about this and create the same sort of thing, and then they can take off, and then,
Sure, absolutely. Through Madam Chair, any municipality, if they had the resourcing, the right technical abilities, they could develop
so
their own
there's
application.
no real way to stop that from happening?
Not using ours, I mean, they could look at, through you, Madam Chair, they could look at what we've built on the front-facing piece, but they would have no idea what we've done in the back end, right? Because they don't see the back end, but they could look at it and go, wow, we really like that, we want to build that, and they could pay someone to build it for them, and they absolutely could. Maybe Michael will add into that.
Through you, Madam Chair, the other thing to bear in mind is that this is not unique. There are commercially available products right now, as we talk about a little bit in the report. Those products, though, tend to be complex. They do the same functionality, so that functionality, you can go and buy that functionality for a relatively reasonable price. So for some organization to then try and recreate what we've done and leverage it, probably we're not the only example they're going to be looking at. And honestly, when we did our own internal cost benefit analysis of whether we go out and buy something or we actually invest in our own staff building this, it's a narrow win, right? Because we are lucky enough to have the talented Christian Taylor on staff who can build this thing and can do it intuitively and can make it easy to use. Unless you have that resource, you're not necessarily going to end up the same place we ended up. But that doesn't mean that somebody might not try it, absolutely. But chances of them recreating exactly what we've done with the simplicity that we think we offer to folks is relatively unlikely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So, seeing no one left to speak, we have a motion, and we'll go to the vote.
I just messaged Graham.
And it has passed unanimously. Thank you for that. That's just an example of the amazing staff that we have and what they're able to accomplish. Okay, the next item is Transit Engagement Plan with Graham Scott. And Adam, if you are able to get started on that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair. So if you recall, back in September, we've been having the evolution of your fixed route transit system business plan. The last path was to bring you back examples of financial models to implement the fixed route system. No, I'm not plugged in, sorry. Will you share yours as well? Yes, please, sorry. Keeping Shirley on her toes today. I normally drive, and today I'm hoping she can. Is the fixed route financial analysis, which you looked at in September, the different options. And then the next step was the engagement plan. And so in September, you gave us direction to proceed with the engagement, but we committed to council or to committee to come back and discuss what that engagement plan would look like with you before we went out there, knowing how important the engagement piece is to council. So that's what the report is in front of you today. You've seen it. There's still funding remaining in our project budget of 24,000 and change. And that can get us the engagement plan that's in the report, which is multi-pronged. So I won't go over it in detail, but it's basically, it'll be structured to communicate the details of the development service. So our engagement sessions, there's 4 of them we're looking at doing. 2 of them in the corridor, 1 in the Fundy Central region, and 1 in the Uniacke Rawdon region. And basically, it'll communicate the details of the developed plan, including operational implications for the tax rate. So that's bringing your financial piece into the engagement. gather feedback from community members regarding their preferences and perceived gaps in the pro service. So that was one piece we heard, just doing a check-in on that, the example of the fixed route to make sure we haven't missed the mark on that. It's been a little while. Also assess the level of public interest and value of the transit for the community, and provide information on the social and environmental advantages of public transit. So those are kind of the main pieces. The other piece to the engagement plan is the survey. And we're also looking at doing a mail out for the survey, kind of similar to what we did with the Parks and Rec master plan, kind of that mail out. We'll gladly help staff, or sorry, the residents fill out the survey. We'll if they can't do it online themselves, we can do it over the phone. So we're going to provide kind of a different accessible options for completion of the survey. And then kind of the report that we're going to get at the end of that will be analysis of those multi-pronged approaches to the engagement plan. We have suggested in the recommended motion is providing up to 5,000 in the transit from the reserve that's listed in the recommendation, just in case the public mail out is a costly process. So I didn't have we were looking at some of our SAP costs just to try to get those numbers. So just to give us that additional buffer there to make sure we can do it well and do it right. The piece that's not in this report is we don't have, the survey, but we do plan, because we haven't moved this forward, we do plan to put in the costing into that survey as well. So, Graham, is there anything to add in? Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you for that report. Any questions from council?
Sorry, Madam Chair, there was one more thing, the timing. In your report, what we heard from committee and council last time was preferred not to do it in the wintertime. The report speaks to, I think, an April timeline, April, May, or at least April, I remember reading. That we can go ahead sooner than waiting, but that is what we heard from the conversation. So that is our plan, is kind of that spring, early spring piece. So back to you. For the in person, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Adam. First to speak is Warden Rolston.
I have just a few questions. If you could flesh out for me the direct mail out. So every household in the municipality is going to get the survey in the mail. You just might.
Go ahead.
Through you, Madam Chair. So what each resident in the municipality, or each household in the municipality, will receive is a mail out that explains what the transit service is, and then ask them to complete the survey online or to do a phone survey where they can call into the municipality. The challenge with doing a direct mail out of the survey itself is then they have to then be responsible to mail it back in, bring it back in, drop it off. We will have copies of the survey available probably here. We'll probably put some at the Sportsplex that, should they choose to fill it out in that manner, they could. And if there was a specific request, if someone called and said, hey, I really need a paper copy, then we could certainly accommodate that. But the plan is to have the cards go out in the mail to each household that direct them on how to then complete the survey.
Well, I'll have to ponder that over in my mind. I was envisioning there'd be a stamped, self-addressed envelope included, and those that were interested would fill out the survey and mail it back to us. And that way, everyone has equal opportunity, whether they have internet or whatever. They have the opportunity. I know that costs more.
Through you, Madam Chair. We found in the past that the phone surveys actually work quite well, and people can just answer those questions over the phone, just as an aside.
Okay. Also, and we can figure that, I'm hoping, since we're not doing this till later, which I agree with, I'd like to see the actual survey.
Through you, Madam Chair. When we get to that decision point with the consultant, we can certainly bring it back to council, yes.
And the reason I say this is because the discussion that we had previously to even get us to this point has proven to be somewhat of a hot topic in the rural area. And the feedback that I have received thus far, I'm not anticipating a particularly positive response, because I've already been told in no uncertain terms, do not raise our taxes to pay for transit that's not going to come out here that we can use. And that's, maybe I'll hear differently going forward, but that's what I've heard to date. So I want the opportunity as much as possible for everyone to feel included in this and able to present their opinions on it. My second question is public meetings. I don't think 4 are enough for this topic, because the rural area of this municipality is very, very broad geographically. I understand that the population density is not as much, but to have one meeting in the Mount Uniacke to Rawdon area and one meeting in the rest of the rural area, that's not enough. People work, they travel often to the city or wherever for work to get home in time to get to an evening meeting. I would like to see more than 4 public meetings to allow people to come in person and, you know, look at the diagrams that might be available, ask the questions. You know, those are my comments right now. I'm very big on this public consultation because what I have heard thus far leads me to believe that we really need to make sure people know about it, and we really need to make sure that people understand it, and we really need to make sure it's easy for them to provide their feedback. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Warden. Next to speak.
Well, just through you, Madam Chair, a couple things. So to your comment about bringing the survey back, if should council make a motion today, maybe a separate motion or include it with the motion, then we have that for our records and direction. If council or committee does want to add in an additional in-person meeting, we'll probably need a bit more funding. So when you make the motion, you need to give us a little bit more than that 5,000 buffer there. So those are the two things to add. Thank you.
Okay, first to speak is Councillor Musa.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think the warden already hit on what I was going to say, so I don't think in a rural area 1 meeting is enough. And if that meeting happened, where it's going to be?
So through you, Madam Chair, right now there's 2 meetings for the rural areas. Well, depending on how you classify Uniacke. Yeah, one in the Uniacke Rawdon and one in the Fundy Shore. We haven't selected locations yet, but what I'm hearing is there's probably at least a 3rd meeting within there that we'd like to do. For at least 5 then meetings. And if council wants to go more, we can go more. There's just a cost behind that. And there is money in that the reserve, so
like the resident in the rural area, they're gonna probably end up paying for a service they're not gonna use. So I think the consultation should be more there, because you don't expect somebody to drive like 30 minutes to a meeting and they're gonna end up paying money for something they're not gonna use at all. So I think the more we get in a rural area, the more feedback we get and the better the decision we make. Maybe 3, maybe 2, I don't know how council feel, but I think at least 3 should be done there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Next to speak is Councillor Rhino.
Talking about the direct mail survey or whatever, direct card, and then it puts you through to a internet survey, we'll say, for lack of better words. And then you said that, you talk about, they can use the phone. I'm thinking of seniors. I'm thinking of seniors, and we're telling seniors to be aware of phone scans, to be very wary of what goes on the phone, with the phone system. And yet we're saying, you can do a phone survey. a lot of seniors don't like to be pressed with questions on the phone looking for some kind of answer. A lot of them would like to have the mail out of that paid survey and have it done so they can fill it out and think, take their time, fill it out and think, and have the ample time to do it at their leisure to fill out the survey. So the warden mentioned a direct mail out survey. I would like to see that. Yes, there's a cost to it, but yes, I think it'll add more convenience to do that. Second thing, we talked about, the warden mentioned meetings here. You're saying one meeting for the Rawdon Uniac area. Well, I can imagine, I'm not speaking for any of the councillors in Mount Uniac, but Mount Uniac should have their own, because I can imagine that if they would like to be in on this, and they could fill a hall, easy. So, and then you're asking people to bring, drive all the way to Mount Uniac from whatever. Why not have one in Mount Uniac and two more in the quarter, in the more rural area, the northern area of the municipality? To me, would make more sense, right? And then go from there. But I'm hearing the same thing as the warden is. Don't raise our taxes to put a transit system along that corridor. And that's what I'm hearing. And I imagine, there'll be a strong turnout at those meetings. There was one other question, and it has slipped my mind right now, and I'll reserve the right to come back. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Next to speak is the CAO.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, councillors, for surveys to go out to the public these days, it's very difficult to, you've sort of got that multi-generational thing happening in households across East Hants. The survey that we did for the Rec and Culture study was really well received, and the postcards were only really the start of getting to that survey. So the lion's share of folks just took the postcards, went online, answered the survey, and they were done. We did have several people who either called in and asked for a paper copy to be mailed to them, which was done, and then they would submit that in a postage paid envelope. And then we also had folks who called in and had it done over the phone, and they were comfortable doing that. So you've got a whole multitude of people and how they want to do these surveys. The difficulty with putting out a survey in paper form only is, let's say you put out 11,500 surveys and you get 4,000 back. You then have to input that information into a computer system to tabulate the survey results. So then we just simply don't have the staff resources to put even 2,000 survey responses in. Plus you start to get that human error of data entry and whatnot. So there is absolute value in providing a mailed copy to people who want them. And people will ask. If this is something that they want to have input into, they will ask. Or they may be the folks who go to the in-person sessions where we will absolutely have paper copies for people to fill out. Those paper copies then have to get put into the system though. So, which if you've got, 100 or 200, that's fine, we can manage that. 2,000, 4,000, we can't manage to put all those into a system. So I appreciate that people need a paper copy, absolutely. But when you start to pay for a large survey, like large piece of package going out to every household, with postage paid responses paid, you're going to get into some really significant dollars that I just don't think is necessary for the majority of the people. And we absolutely can accommodate folks who need to have paper or to call in and fill those out. As far as the additional sessions, we can absolutely do that. We just need to know where you'd like them, and there will be an additional cost. These are consultant-driven sessions, so you're probably, an extra $2,000 for a session to happen. But we can certainly make those happen for, this is an important topic, and we want to make sure we get it right. So that can happen. We just need some direction from council, or if you want us to come back. We're not doing these till April or May, so if you want us to try and book some halls, see if halls are available for certain times, and then try and get some locations, we can bring that back in an information report to council as well.
Thank you. Okay, next to speak is Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The warden, or it's not the warden, sorry. The CAO took a lot of the points I was going to say for certain things as far as cost and cost recovery goes. I believe the only way a paper copy should be sent out is requested. I don't think we should be leaving them sitting around anywhere. If you want to have some at the office here where somebody can come in and ask for one, it should be, but there are a large group of seniors, but there's a large group of people that anything that comes in the mail paper just goes in the trash, right? Most people now, in order to bank, you have to do telephone banking or online banking of some kind, regardless of your age, because there just is no tellers at half the banks anymore. So I believe have it with the phone option and the option to go online. Those are two options. And the difference between a phone scam and something else is you are making the call to this from a municipal number that you should already recognize. So it's not like somebody is calling you, asking you for a survey. You are calling them to provide a survey. So I don't think that is a risk in this situation. As far as the meetings go, the timing of the meetings is going to mean everything. The time and dates when it comes down to that, because in the springtime is when all of the nonprofit groups and everything starts reopening in, not just the rural area, but in all areas, and things start to get busy again. And people's time is going to be even less available for a lot of these, whether it's the kickoff of this organization or that. We really have to look at focusing when we do pick the dates and times for the meetings in the community, that it's the best time and date for that community, that it doesn't conflict with a lot of other things that are going on. That being said, I believe those who want to reply to this topic will do it. I just don't want to have somebody call in, submit one online, and try. So we have to have the ability to track this by address, that, you can have same people from the same address report it, but you shouldn't get 20 replies from a single family dwelling. This is how you have to keep the integrity of your survey for survey results. So there has to be some form of mechanism to cross-reference a phone call, an online survey, and anybody who requests one on paper, to ensure we don't have any of those things coming in for people who are for transit and people who are against transit. We need a clear, definite picture from the public on this, and I do believe that the surveys should be sent out in advance of the public information sessions, with the public information session dates on it. And the period to reply to the surveys should go beyond the completion of all those public service engagements. So it kind of works as two ways, that information card. It's here's where you can go to make the survey, but here's where you can go to get more information, and you don't have to complete the survey if you choose not to until you get more information and sit down at one of these public information meetings. So I believe it will give the public every opportunity to attend, be heard, and be aware of the topic at hand, which will then give us better data to better inform us of how we move forward after this, because this is a big topic that isn't just for East Hants. It's going nationwide, and the province, we still haven't quite got their full plan for how they wanted to run things from Truro Inn and from Wolfville all the way back into Halifax under the new provincial transit strategy. So there's a lot of things that are going to feed into this, and there's still a lot of unknowns, but all of this stuff is stuff the public needs to be aware of as we move forward with this exploration. And that to me it's going to be critical. But as far as paper mailouts with automatic stamp returns, I am 100% against that. It is a waste of taxpayers' money. I believe anybody and everybody has the phone number of the municipality, and if they want one, and this information card goes out and the number's there, if you would like to get one, you can call and it will be sent to you. I believe that is the appropriate measure for paper copies to be sent out rather than just a carte blanche. It will help the cost and will help the waste as well, because let's face it, we're all trying to be a little bit greener, and sending out all that paper and paying for all that postage that could never be used is something that at this time as we're heading towards budget and we're trying to keep costs as low as we can for people, we should be thinking of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Next to speak is Councillor McPhee.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Well, the CAO answered a lot of my concerns, and I agree with a lot of, or pretty much what Councillor Perry said. My remaining question, I just want clarification. There'll be a phone number that people can call off of the card. So I was wondering if staff could just tell me the phone in, then if you phone that number, there'll be a person on the end. This is not just doing press 1, press 2. You're actually talking to someone and they'll ask you the questions and get your comments and they'll be recorded.
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, it would go to Amy on our team.
Okay, so that seems on.
And if Amy's listening, we haven't brought that to her yet. But, that is our plan.
That's good to know too. No, well, that's everything, because I think that gives people the option. They can get a paper copy, they can phone in. A lot of people, I think, would be very comfortable rather than filling out the paper copy, especially a lot of senior citizens. So I think that's a good way to go. And yes, more public information meetings, I certainly support that. It's a big area, so maybe even in the quarter we'll need an extra one.
Agreed.
With that, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Next to speak is Councillor Tingley.
Through the chair, I agree with everything that Councillor Perry said about the paper and online and phone calls. My experience through my work, I retired a couple of years ago, and we dealt with thousands of people all across Nova Scotia, is the majority of them didn't want paper. Some did want paper, and if they did, we provided it, but paper was almost all but gone by the time I retired a couple of years ago in the business we were in. So I trust staff are going to do this engagement adequately, and I don't want to have any control over the outcome. Like, the only thing we're voting on here is an engagement plan. I'd be prepared to vote this motion right now. So I'm going to make the motion that Corporate and Residential Services Committee recommends to Council that staff proceed with the engagement plan for a fixed route transit service as presented in the December 1, 2025 staff report. And if additional funding is required, a maximum of $5,000 is allocated from the Transit Project Reserve G306 Municipal Vehicles Transit Study.
Okay. Made and seconded. On before the motion is Warden Rolston.
Thank you. I'm probably going to move an amendment to the motion because I'm not going to support it as it stands. I do think we need more meetings, more public meetings, and I would just, I'm casting around in my mind, how many public meetings did we have in the rural area for the plan implementation, the zoning thing? They were all pretty well attended. I know there was one in Rawdon. I believe there was one in Kennecott. There was one in Knoll. Walton, I don't remember. There was one in Maitland. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And all of those, Yeah, well, I'm not asking for 2 rounds at this time, but those 5 meetings in the rural area were all, some were much more well-attended than others, but there were people came out to all those meetings because they were in their home communities and it was easy for them to find the time to attend. So I think we definitely need more than 4 meetings. And I think we need significantly more in the rural area and perhaps in the corridor area too, because I'm a little afraid there's an assumption that everyone from Enfield through to Shubenacadie thinks the same way about this. And I'm not sure that that is the case. So I just think we need more public meetings. What I don't know is how many more. And I also still would feel more comfortable if I knew what was in that survey prior to it going out to the public. Because once that survey goes out, I'll tell you whose phones are going to ring if they don't understand questions or want to know why the questions are on there. So I'd like to have a preview of it. And I can compromise, having heard the discussion, I can compromise on the mail out as long as there is a phone number on that card and it clearly states, if you wish to submit a paper copy of this survey, call this number and we will send you one with a return envelope. Then, that's fine. And that would also address the problem that, that this may be strange to most people, but the 2 adults who live in my household don't always agree on things. So that would address any problems if there were multiple people in a household who perhaps thought differently about any part of it. So I'm going to move an amendment to the motion to say that the number of public meetings being planned for this be set, right now it's 4. I'm going to say be set to a maximum, I'm going to say 8, and if someone tells me you need more than 3 in the corridor, I'd be okay with that, to a maximum of 8 public meetings, 5 in the Mount Uniacke through the rural area and 3 in the corridor. That council receive a preview of the survey and that the survey very clearly explains to the public how to get and submit a paper copy if they want one.
So if I can just question that. So you want the survey to say how they would get a paper copy, or you want the
No, the
initial card?
The card that goes out to, sorry.
Okay, no, just wanted to clarify. Okay,
And the budget be increased accordingly.
And that the budget be increased accordingly.
okay, motion has been made and seconded.
That's the
And
amendment.
The amendment has been made and seconded. Councillor McPhee, to the amendment?
Yes. Thank you, Chair. Does that limit it now? You said 8 meetings, 5 there. I can definitely see needing more than 3 in the corridor area. I don't want to be limited to just 8 and we're stuck with 3.
I'm prepared to, if someone could be a friendly amendment, I'd be prepared to say 9 meetings with 4 in the corridor. Is that enough?
Yeah, that's a maximum.
I would say that would probably do it then.
If the seconder agrees to that.
I agree.
Okay. Friendly amendment that doesn't require. Okay, so motion's been made and seconded. Adam? Or Grain?
Just of a note on the number of meetings and engagements, because we're gathering feedback and feeding that into the analysis for council, the geographical distribution of those engagement sessions, it needs to be weighted appropriately so that it doesn't like impact the results. So we can't overweight one area and not have the other area equal. So, and I haven't done that analysis yet to figure out what that would need to be, but it's just something to keep in mind where if you're directing us, if council's providing direction to staff to do a specific number in this area, I just would be concerned that because we haven't run that yet to figure it out, that that direction, it could impact the way the results are interpreted through the analysis. That's all. And I just don't know
I
right
am
now.
going to respond to that, if I may, by saying that every taxpayer in this municipality whose taxes may increase, if we bring this in, has an equal say in it. Doesn't matter where they live. If this is a general rate, issue. If this were something that were being paid for by one area and not the other, I would agree 100%. But every taxpayer in this municipality stands to be impacted by this. So in my opinion, every vote carries an equal amount of weight. Thank you.
Can I speak? If you'll take the chair, please. I do just want to comment that, yes, the corridor, if there is an assumption out there about the corridor, they absolutely need multiple meetings. From the limited responses that I've received back from residents and coworkers alike, it's all been that they are not in a position or will not be using a transit system. And the big thing with everyone is they are paying enough taxes now. They are not going to want a tax increase on something that they never intend to use. So, and I'm sure there will be people who intend to use it, and this will all come out in the wash. But I just want to make it clear that the corridor, we need to see how people feel, and this is the way to do it. Lots of meetings. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Perry.
Thank you. I will not be supporting the amendment because of the data which Graham was outlining. You have 6 districts that are only going to get 3 meetings, and you're going to have 2 districts that's going to get 4. And so when you're looking at the data for the people and to make every vote count, having more meetings in an area with less people does not weigh the total study the exact same, right? If you're looking at through the engagement sessions, and when they come with the final numbers, from the 3 sessions here, it'll say this, and from the 5 sessions, or whatever it is, somewhere else, it's going to say something else. But as a representation of population, those extra meetings can't add to the numbers. How that's going to be taken, it has to be taken a different way. And one of the other things too is, when we did go through the rural area for the zoning, there was a group about 20 to 25 that traveled to every single meeting. So I really think it's important that we log the address of people when they come in to know where they're coming from. Because if people go to every single meeting and keep bringing up points, well, that's one person's vote and one person's view, but now it's going through multiple areas, and it can skew the data. So, to me, like, it's one thing about getting public engagement, it's also getting proper public engagement to make sure that the data that we have at the end to make our decision on is accurate. And I would be interested to see how Graham would come up with weighting that with the number of excess meetings in a smaller populous area versus a more dense populated area, of how do you weight those responses in those meetings equally and fairly. That would be something that would have to come out of that.
Okay, Councillor Garden Cole.
So I just want to get some clarity here. So if John Doe goes to 7 meetings and is either in favor of or against transit, we are only calculating his one vote. I mean, he's going to fill out a survey for or against, and that's one survey response, right? It doesn't matter. No, I'm just trying to get clarity from staff that regardless of how people feel in the meetings, it all comes down to surveys. Is that correct?
Okay, Graham.
Through you, Madam Chair. So the feedback that's received at the meetings themselves will also be taken into the analysis. It will be part of the overall report. So that feedback that's received will be recorded, and will basically take that qualitative data and turn it into quantitative data in order to bring that into the analysis with the consultant, so that what is brought up and what is voiced at the meetings will have equal weight to what's placed on the surveys. Even though there'll be separate types of data gathering, both will be brought into the final analysis, essentially, to give council an overall picture of the information that your residents have provided to you.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Perry.
And the reason why I brought this up is because that happened during the process that we did through the zoning of the rural area. You had the same people speaking at every meeting, and in every synopsis from every meeting, those comments were recorded from the meeting minutes, and they were recorded as public comments. But it was the same comment from the same three people at every meeting. So in those 5 meetings, they now had 15 comments recorded towards a decision the council was having to make, when really it was only 3. And that's why I brought it up, because I remember how that worked when we did the zoning of the rural area, and people were giving the same comments and going to the mic at every meeting to voice their displeasure. Staff has no choice but to record that. That's why I believe when we look at when the meetings are being attended, we capture who is there and who speaks and their address. Because if they speak at one meeting and they speak at 5 meetings, we should have a way to identify that this one person spoke 5 times, it should be taken down as 1 comment, not 5 comments, and the number of comments at each meeting aren't weighted a certain way, because that happened when we did the zoning of the rural area. Thank you.
Councillor Rhino.
Well, thank you, Madam Warden. We're not taking votes at these meetings. You're going to summarize these meetings. You're going to say the majority of people were out loud either for or against this. You're going to have comments. Now, I can understand Councillor Perry if he says if somebody comes to speak, state your name. And you have to say, okay, I don't have a problem with that. But if councillors who go to attend these meetings to hear what's said are going to generally scope the room on what is being said and summarize this, what comes down to it will be probably the number of surveys that go out there and the number of returns. That will be either for or against. That's the way I go. To me, a meeting is for information, to let the people know this is how much they're going to be paying, this is the plan, blah, 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 right? And we're going to make a general consensus of what's happening in the room. The surveys will be more, to me, an analytical thing you can base numbers on, not what's at a meeting. To me, that's information. That's how I see it. Thank you.
Councillor Merriam.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to staff. So just building on some of the comments from my colleagues, I'm wondering, so I think the issue seems to be, in a wrap-up report, there might be an overview of the many sessions that might skew results a little bit in a particular, urban or rural area, as the case might be. I guess my question is, would it be possible, that aside, would we be able to see a summary of each individual session? So then it would be up to the councillor to do their due diligence and kind of probe further if they wish to see what was actually said as a summary from each respective meeting. Would that be your intention, to provide that information?
Graham?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes.
No further questions, thanks.
Councillor McPhee.
Thank you, Warden. I can understand what Graham's saying about the waiting due to where we hold the meetings. And statistically speaking, that's correct. And thinking along that line, if you held 4 meetings in the quarter, but you hold them all in room 168, that's going to change your results, because there's not going to be as many people from Shubenacadie, Mill Village, Milford, Harwood Lands come to Elmsdale as if you had one in the Milford Rec Hall, say, or the Shubenacadie Legion. So that does make a difference where you hold them. So, that weighting is a concern. I disagree with, I can understand what Councilor Ryan is saying, but I think statistically speaking, you do need to consider that. And my other question, or I was wondering, can we have the amendment, did the amendment state that there'd be 5 for sure in the rural, 4 in the corridor?
A maximum of 9, with the idea being 5 in the rural and 4 in the corridor. I would be open, yes. 5 include, 4 rural, 1 Mount Uniac, and 4 corridor.
But we're limited to 9, so we could end up with 5 in the corridor and 4 in the rural then. If we have it that way. So we are saying then that there's gonna be 5 in the rural
4 in the corridor, 4 in the rural, and 1 in Mount Union.
and 1 in Mount Uniac.
That's the intent. And if staff, there's time. We're not doing this till spring. If staff comes back and says we think something else would work better, I'm sure we would take
Well,
that under
that's what I was
advisement.
gonna say. I don't wanna get that written in concrete. I want it that if the staff looks at it and says the weighting should be this way, that's where the meeting should occur.
And it would not be my intention that all corridor meetings would be held in room 168.
No, and I wouldn't expect that, but I was just saying that's how you have to consider weighting. We wouldn't do that, but we do have to consider where in the corridor they're held, just the same as we have to look at the weighting for all the rural area. Okay, that's.
I'm going to
that's good.
turn the
Thanks.
chair back over to the chair then, if I could.
Thank you.
My only intent in increasing the meetings in the rural area is purely based on the geographical distance that people have to travel to get to these meetings and get the information, often after they've worked all day and, traveled to and from their place of employment. And yes, it does not matter what public engagement you do, there is a risk of the same group coming to every meeting and pressing their point. Whether you're for it or against it, it happens. But I think we're all capable, and I think staff is capable of seeing that it's the same group of people showing up. We understand that. And I certainly have no problem with, you giving your name and an address before you speak at a meeting and identify who you are. And I think we can figure that. As far as weighting goes, I understand, but I still stand by my comments that because this project that we're seeking information about impacts every taxpayer of the municipality, then no one taxpayer's vote is more important than the other. Because if this is a general rate item, every taxpayer would be impacted. So, but yes, absolutely have the information. Perhaps we'll find that a certain area of the municipality is very much against this, but another area of the municipality is very much in support of it. And if we find we have an area in the municipality that's very much support of it, then maybe we look at a different funding model than a general tax rate. I don't know, but it provides us the information to see, what residents support, what residents don't support, and, it's information seeking. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Okay, so we've got a motion, an amendment to the motion. Seeing no one left to speak, we'll go to the vote. And the vote is 10 for and 1 against, with Councillor Perry voting nay. Okay, and now we will vote on the amended motion. Looking, someone hasn't voted. Okay, and the vote is in, and the vote is 10 for, 1 against, with Counselor Perry voting nay. Okay, and that's it. We are at our time of a scheduled break. Oh. Go ahead, Adam.
Through you, Madam Chair, just did the amended motion include that you'd like the survey brought back to council, or do we need a separate motion for that?
I don't remember.
It did? Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so we are going to take a break and we will be back at 10:50. We will reconvene.
Down there I shall go.
Are we good? Okay, folks, welcome back to the Corporate and Residential Services. Our first item after the break is council procedural policy update with the CAO, once she gets ready.
It's not coming up, Shelley. No, okay, we'll go with that. Thank you, Madam Chair. So as you all know, we've had some changes to your code of conduct with the provincial code of conduct coming into place and council having to forego their code of conduct that was a separate document. So back in a couple of months ago, you took your code of conduct offline and adopted the provincial code of conduct. With that, there were some sections in your code that council wanted to keep. So what we've done is we've taken a look at your council procedural policy and we've added those back into your procedural policy in a way that we feel works. It was a little awkward, but to make sure it works. And then we've also incorporated directing staff to explore requirements for groups to speak to council or requesting funding to demonstrate organizational support if acting on behalf of a group. So the presentation, the policy is attached. It was changed slightly. There was a version that I tweaked some of the headings, so I'll pop into the policy in a second, just to make sure you know what you're voting on. It is attached to the agenda this afternoon or this morning. And then in addition, section 7.1 of the council procedure policy has been updated to meet the intent of your motion with respect to the applications to make a presentation. So we'll jump in and take a look at that. That is the wrong version. So in your policy, I'm just going to jump down to section 7.1. So what we've done in section 7.1 is we recommended that you just add the wording to this that any person can make a presentation to committee or council provided the applicants have been submitted an application 1 week prior to the meeting, that they are authorized by their organization to appear, and they have been granted permission from the clerk, which is myself. We looked at different ways of this, like trying to I think the intent of the motion from council was if a person came and wanted to speak about something that they are unrelated to or unrelated to a group, but really you can't really incorporate that into this policy. I think those would be on a one-off basis. What you really want to know is that if you have someone coming to present on behalf of a group, that group knows they're coming. And then we looked at things like, well, if a CEO of a nonprofit is coming to present to you, they don't always need a motion of their board. If they have authority to come and present and to do the business of, like, I wouldn't need necessarily permission from council to go and present or to go apply for a grant for funding, for example. So they may not need that authorization either. So the words we chose were that they are authorized by their organization to appear. So if their internal policies allow them to appear in front of you, then that would be what we would look to sort of check that box. The other section that we updated with respect to your code of conduct, what we did, we went through, your code of conduct had some sort of motherhood statements of, each member shall and the way that you wanted your members of this chamber to act. So we did add a code of conduct section that refers specifically to your provincial code of conduct. And then we just took almost verbatim, I believe, the words that were in the green in that report that you saw last month that were being removed. We took those and put them in section 13 and created a section called Conduct of Members. So, Madam Chair, there is a motion attached to the report. One that would be for this afternoon to give approval or to give intent to pass the changes in the motion, and then the other one would be read at the regular meeting of council. So the first one would be appropriate for this committee today.
Okay, thank you. First to speak is Warden Rolston.
Thank you. Well, I would move that the Corporate and Residential Services Committee recommends to council that council give notice of intent to approve updates to the council procedural policies attached to the Executive Committee agenda dated December 9th, 2025.
Okay, moved and seconded. On before the motion, Councillor Merriam.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and a question through to the CAO. When we look at, I think it's 12.1.4, it may have changed from the version that was shared with us.
Yes, it would have.
It relates to councilors dealing with MLAs and MPs.
It's
And,
13.4.
Yeah, the wording, I just wanted to ask for some clarification. When we say on a local district issue, can you just give some clarification on the intention of local? And I guess, is it, the councilor's district? Is it, neighboring districts? Or, let's face it, we're a local government. So, if, in District 6, if I had, an issue for whatever reason in, Councilor Rhino's area, and I felt strongly, about a local issue of sending a letter like that, I'm just wondering, am I covered by local? I'm just looking for some clarification, please.
Through you, Madam Chair. So local district issue would be something, quite a few of them are probably going to be around transportation or snow clearing issues or provincial roads or things like that. So anything that is, I would say, local to your district. If it's something beyond your district, then you're probably looking to have a letter from council. So these are areas where quite often provincial issues become sort of recurring issues, then council would send a letter to the province.
Yes.
If it's a local issue and you want to call your MLA and say, look, Minister McDonald, this isn't getting fixed. We've asked 4 times. The residents are, need this to be resolved and it's a provincial issue, then that would be your prerogative to do that.
Thank you. And, I guess I'd be interested too if, I don't know if other councilors have an opinion one way or the other on it. Perhaps the wording could be tightened up to on an issue in the councilor's district, or we leave it general, or, we specify, as another option, anywheres in the municipality. And if, it could be the council's wishes to keep it as is, but I'd just be interested if anyone has a comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Tingley is next.
Through the chair, I just want to voice my displeasure to that condition 13.4, where councillors are prevented from engaging with anybody other than their local MLA and MP, including corporations, to advocate for their constituents. Just recently at an NSFM, some of the MLAs that were there were suggesting that there should be more communication between councillors and the MLAs. And I find this renders a councillor less effective to be able to investigate and advocate on behalf of their constituents. I guess there's no, I'm not going to make a motion to take it out of there because I know council has agreed in the past to restrict themselves from being able to communicate with these other entities to try to advocate for their constituents. And I'll just work with it if everybody else is still of that same view. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor. Next to speak is Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Looking at 13.4, I'm okay with that. I understand where Councilor Merriam is coming from. A local district issue would be something I deal with. If I was stepping outside of my district because a constituent in another district contacted me, I would make sure that I notified the local councillor that we had discussions and what was decided going forward, but not making any decisions based on what I thought, but I would make sure that the local council knew that a constituent had reached out to me for, I guess, for a discussion. That's all.
Thank you, Councillor. Next to speak is Councillor McPhee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I thought about it the same way Councillor Merriam did, decided that probably the wording in 13.4 is fine. I also thought about Councillor Tingley's concerns, and I don't think maybe I didn't feel it restricted us to the same extent that I think Councillor Tingley does, so saying that, I'm happy with 13.4 as it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Next to speak is Warden Rolston.
Thank you. And the intent here is simply for clarity. MLAs, MPs, other levels of government, other organizations cannot be receiving correspondence from council and then receiving correspondence from, 11 people from the council and trying to figure out who speaks for what. Any concern, a councillor can bring any concern to council and ask council to contact these folks and that's what will happen. But from my perspective, and I believe from staff's perspective, it's very difficult to be in any kind of a negotiation with any organization or level of government and not know what else might be floating out around there. It puts us in a very sometimes awkward position. So I certainly support the 13.4. Thank you.
Thank you, Warden. Would you mind taking the chair for a minute?
Go ahead.
So when it comes to 13.4, last time we had this conversation and maybe made some tweaks to this before it's coming to us now, we talked about, for example, I think the big one was, say, contacting a area manager for DOT, for Public Works. And at that time, that was deemed acceptable. Is this eliminating that?
No.
Okay.
Through you, Madam Chair, this hasn't been tweaked in any way. This is exactly as you last approved it.
Well, I guess it's the color that's throwing me off
Yes.
then.
It's being moved back into it was moved out of the policy to the code of conduct. It's being moved back into this policy.
Okay.
It's exactly the same wording.
Okay, so I just 1 second here while
You can advocate to a provincial, local, area staff on behalf of a constituent. There's
Okay.
nothing to stop you from doing that. You do need to indicate you're not representing council.
Yes. Yep. Okay, and that's the only thing that I would ever do. Okay, thank you. Next to speak is Councillor Tingley.
Through the chair, I just want to clarify, I totally agree with the warden. If staff or the municipality is dealing with another level of government on something, councillors shouldn't be reaching out and dealing with that for sure. But there are instances where a councillor could speak with another level of government or a corporation or entities within the government to advocate and help or to gather information and help their constituents. And I find it very restrictive that you can't do that. I've had even recent examples where I think I could have assisted some residents with a problem, and I'm just not able to do it. Because this here specifically states that I can't even reach out to a department within the provincial government that the municipality is not even dealing with. And I might have a contact person or know of something about how that particular level of the government or that department operates and be able to help somebody. But I can't now because of this restriction. That's it.
Through you, Madam Chair, if it's a local issue and it's a staff person at the provincial government, councillors can reach out to staff people. It's the, you just need to make sure that, I'm the local area councillor for this area and this constituent has an issue. There's no issue with that.
But the problem is, through the chair, is it says you can't reach out to any government departments or agencies or corporations. It's pretty broad. You can't do any investigation other than speak with the MLA or MP.
No, through you, Madam Chair, or advocating for a constituent with provincial local area staff, clearly indicating they're not representing council. So that's an exception. So except we're dealing with the local MLA or MP, or advocating for constituents on with provincial local area staff. Now, that was sort of written with that transportation language in mind, but I think provincial area staff of a topic as well. Like if you have those conversations, you can help your residents advocate to provincial staff. It's when you start involving other MLAs, ministers, that type of thing, and it becomes political, then that political piece should come from council.
Okay, next to speak is Councillor Rhino.
Well, for me, I think it's fairly clear, or other corporations on specific East Hants municipal matters. Your local issues, helping a constituent is between your constituent and the representative. But once you cross that line where you know that the municipality as a whole has an interest or is going to discuss anything, then, you have to then follow the group's wishes and represent that. I don't have a problem with this. I think it fits well, and I think it's been explained well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Seeing no one left to speak, we will go to the vote. And it has been passed unanimously. Okay, next item on the agenda is Council Remuneration and Travel Reimbursement Policy Update with Wade Tatry.
Good morning, everybody. This report is in relation to a council motion that was made on November 26, Council Motion C-25-380, that indicated move that staff prepare a report to update the council remuneration and travel policy to include lunch on executive committee days. So we have simply added another line to section 5 on that policy. Find it here. Come on, come on. Simply, we put this one sentence in. Councilors may claim a meal allowance for lunch on executive meeting days. That's the only change we've made to the policy. As noted in the financial impact of this on an annual basis, go back to the report here. On an annual basis, it's approximately $2,541 if all councilors claimed it on each and every executive day. And we have the motion in the report that we would see here for today on December the 9th, and that would be applicable for today. And then we also have the one that would be applicable on the next council meeting, December 17th, but not relevant for today. And that is really it, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, we've got what is your wish? I don't see anyone to speak. Go ahead, Warden Rolston.
I will move the recommended motion that the Corporate and Residential Services Committee recommends that council give notice of intent to approve an amendment to the council remuneration and travel reimbursement policy to reflect new wording to Section 5 dealing with the meal allowance for lunch on Executive Committee meeting days as attached to the Executive Committee agenda December the 9th, 2025.
Okay, motion has been moved and seconded. Seeing no one to speak, we'll go to the vote. There we go. Okay, motion has passed 7-4 with Councilors Dixon, Councilor Merriam, Councilor Musa, and Councilor Perry voting against. Oops. I went one too far. Sure, just one sec. Eleanor, I went too far. Okay. Councilor Rhino?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is related to the last subject there. A number of years ago, councilors I think it was by Revenue Canada, were at one time were allowed 1/3 of their salary tax rate for expenses that were there, were not, that we occurred during their term. And I think when the conversation went that we were told that we are not recognized, the municipal government is not recognized as politicians. And I think we talked about this before. And was there not a letter that went asking for us to be recognized as politicians? And if so, what was the response on that? Because I really believe that, as councillors, and we are out in the public so much and attending events on, in our district, and that there 1/3 tax free made the difference or helped out a lot. So I'm wondering if we ever got a response to that, and if the response I expect would be negative, how would you suggest we go about that, trying this again, and to be recognized as true politicians as we are? We're the ones that are closest to the people, the ones that get the numerous amount of calls. So I just like to hear an answer to that. Thank you.
Okay, CAO?
Through you, Madam Chair, I remember sending the letter years ago. I don't remember what the response was right off the top of my head, and a very quick search hasn't brought up a letter. I can't imagine we got a response, but we can dive into that a little bit more, maybe.
I'd appreciate that. I'm not speaking for the rest of the councillors here. I think I would appreciate it. It was something, there's a lot of expense going out to events and things like that. And we do it wholeheartedly, but that 1/3 made quite a difference in at the end of the year to get a little back. And and even if we're only recognized as politicians, I think we may have gained. That's my feeling. I like to look at this again and possibly send another letter to get recognized. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Next to speak is Councillor Perry.
Thank you. In kind of some extra points added to Councillor Rhino, I remember when that happened and we did send a letter, and this did come up at FCM that year as well. And I remember the response basically that came when FCM inquired about this was, they government at the time, which is the same government that's in right now that rescinded this, viewed us as employees and not as elected representatives because we don't belong to a party. That was the response that FCM got from the government at the time. So I do think with a new government and new leadership that it would be pertinent for us to look at the response and see if we can re-engage this and maybe engage NSFM and FCM to see if they'll take this back on, because even if they don't reinstitute the clause that allowed for rural part-time counselors or however they wanted to call it back in the day, 1/3 tax-free, just being deemed an elected official would give extra taxation benefits to all members of municipal entities who are elected. So I believe it's something that we should look at into the future. I'm just wondering if you want me to make a motion on this to come back, or is it something that where Councillor Rhino asked for the response and it was said they're going to look into finding the response, that can be brought back at that time, and then from that response I'd be prepared to craft a motion to go forward to those two entities.
Through you, Madam Chair. I think can you leave it with us and we'll connect with the FCM and NSFM and look through our records to see where we sit, and then I'll bring something back either through information for councillors or through decision of council if you want us to proceed with more further action.
Absolutely.
Does that work?
Okay. Okay, so next item is the dog control program with Kelly Ash.
Push the button.
I'll get it.
Thank you,
Go
Madam Chair.
ahead.
Let's see, my fish again.
Didn't get my good side.
Does it matter if I bring it up as a PDF? That seems to be what happens with me. Can you bring it up, Shirley, if that's possible? Yeah. And I'll just discard from there. Thank you. So basically, there's a lot of information in this report for you guys. What we want to highlight today is that the SPCA has given us notice that as of March 31st, 2026, they're terminating their contract for us. Their current contract includes all enforcement of dog control services, any after hours and any kenneling right now. So as of April 1st, we will have that service again, and it'll be under our responsibility. Shirley, if you can scroll down just to the background there, and I'll come back up after. So we did this before. So we always managed dog control prior to 2019. We had a kennel previously that used to be at the Waste Management Center. Then we moved, that was the first start of our transition to the SPCA. They took over some kenneling for us. We have done after-hours service previously with our own staff. We are looking to go back to that as well. Right now, the key that what everybody needs to understand, if you just scroll down through the discussion there, Shirley, we're gonna have to set up a new kennel again. The biggest thing for today's report is that we have a vehicle right now that's in the budget We have a bylaw enforcement vehicle right now. That vehicle is scheduled to be upgraded in 26, 27, but we're requesting an update for it now because we're gonna need a different vehicle to take over for dogs. So right now, we have an SUV. We're looking at a bigger commercial cargo van that will be housed with kennels in the back so that we can better transport those dogs. So on top of all of that, you can see, if we scroll down a little bit, there's a spreadsheet that kind of talks about one-time costs that we have there for dog control, and then what will happen in an annual thing. So we're gonna have to deal with veterinary care. We're looking at additional staffing, equipment, all kinds of things that we haven't had to look at for the last 6 years, really. So it is a substantial change to the program for sure. The bylaw, our bylaw P1000, our dog bylaw, will need to be updated to reflect the transition of the service and to transition back to our own kenneling with redemption fees and stuff like that. The municipal fees policy will also need to be updated. And all the numbers that are in that table are subject to change. So you can see what's in there right now. And then if you can just scroll back to the motion. Sorry, Shirley, thank you. The recommended motion right now is what we're asking for is to have money transferred from this fiscal over to this fiscal to allow for us to purchase the new vehicle. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. First to speak is Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to staff, there was an article written in CBC about this, and the staff at the SPCA mentions that they hope to find a solution with neighboring East Hants in the future as they took an approach with the town council of Stewiacke for something else. I don't think they've come to us with anything.
Through you, Madam Chair, not to my knowledge, no. If I haven't heard, I'll let Kim defer if we've talked to.
We'll just get Adam to weigh in here.
Through you, Madam Chair, I don't have the article in front of me, but I think there was a fee per service conversation.
No, the comment was for Stewiacke.
Stewiacke working with us.
Yeah, so.
From Stewiacke.
Yeah, so the town of Stewiacke, through you, Madam Chair, when everyone was kind of provided notice, the CAOs and staff had kind of reached out and said, we'll keep each other in the loop. How are you moving forward? It was more of a really high level, just in the check-in conversation. So maybe there's a future partnership opportunity, but we're not bringing anything to formalize that with council at this time.
Okay, because the way the article is written, it quotes Mr. Wooden from the SPCA, and then it doesn't quote the CAO until afterwards. And so just the way the English was written, okay, good. No, I'm prepared to move the recommended motion. I don't think we really have a choice because we definitely need these resources, and they're well used throughout the entire municipality for calls. So I'll move the Corporate Residential Service Committee recommend council approve an increase to the 25-26 operating budget of $15,000 for dog control supplies to be funded from the GTR contingency reserve. And when we move the second, is it 3 separate motions or 2 separate motions? Or just, okay, I'll move the first motion.
Seconded.
Okay, moved and seconded. On before the motion, Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Looking through the report, so there would be a fee to the owner if they claimed the dog back?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, we would implement what we did before previously.
What happens if the owner doesn't? What happens to the dog? Or
So through you, Madam Chair, what we did previously was that if a dog was unclaimed, then we would have to eat those costs, and then the dog would then be adopted out.
Okay. Do you foresee many of those incidents happening, that the dog would be unclaimed, and, or to your history?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, we haven't had much in the statistics from the SPCA for the last 6 or 7 years, but in what we had before, like I think they've had 5, the SPCA indicated for this current year, they've had 5 dogs that were impounded. All 5 of those dogs were claimed.
Okay. Okay, I was just thinking of pet costs today, if treats the dog and somebody says, well, I can't afford the rest of the care, I'll let the dog go unclaimed and, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Next to speak is Counselor Merriam.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks, Kelly, for the presentation. And just a question when we look at, I know this is off the table right now, but when we look at what we were paying the SPCA historically for the service, could you, I know it's in documentation, but can you just talk generally about what that cost looks like and how it compares to the current forecasted cost going forward, please?
Yeah, I can give you a basic. So the current contract, when we first entered into the contract, through you, Madam Chair, my apologies. When we first entered into the contract, I think we had started at a $30,000 a year, which, I mean, we acknowledge was probably low for the amount of service that they gave. Throughout the years, it was up to $40,000 per year, which is really only just over $3,300 a month for a full dog control service. Like that was a pretty good deal. Looking at it from us to have to manage now and how we managed it before, I think you're looking at a huge increase because we have to account for what happens if, as Councillor Mitchell said, either your dog gets unclaimed and then we have to eat that cost for anything that happens with that. And then on top of that, if we impound a dog because it's a fierce or dangerous dog and we end up in court, then we could have to house that dog for a period of 8 to 10 months. And that cost alone is something that we're only estimating at this time. So that's why when you look at that spreadsheet and that table, you're gonna see a substantial change in the cost for service. As well, we previously had done after-hours dog control, and we had one primary staff and a part-time staff. That's really not sustainable in this day and age, so we're looking at having a full-time staff and then 2 additional part-time staff to be able to provide some after-hours coverage. That's an additional cost. So I think that's where you see the increase and the change. So the service that we got from the SPCA was all of that, but at a real different rate. And I mean, Kim can elaborate on that further.
Thank you. And am I correct from the report and some of the media information that currently in that space for alternatives, there's basically no other options if we were trying to get an SPCA equivalent? There is none?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'm going to let Kim kind of respond to that, but no, there is no other equivalent.
And my last question is just on when we look at partnering up with other, be it in one of the articles, it did mention that I think Stewiacke mentioned they were interested in talking to us, or be it some other jurisdiction. Are there opportunities to partner with other areas just to help rationalize costs a bit?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, I think that's something that we could talk about at some point in time, but right now we have to figure out how to get ourselves back up and running. So that's where we're looking at right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And the CAO can comment on that.
Through you, Madam Chair. So a couple of things about this budget. It really is an unknown. We know we can't do things the way we did them.
Press your button again.
Sorry, we know we can't do things the way we used to, and we know that costs are going to be escalated. We just don't know how and when. So it's kind of like your legal bills. You never know when something's going to hit you, and you need the money in the bank to pay for it. So this budget, and what you'll see in your first year budget of backup and operations for dog control, it is heavy in dollars, but the intent is that you would take that money, put it in a reserve, and then scale back that budget once you have a year of knowns. You're still going to have to accept that you have unknowns that may hit you, like 8 months of kenneling a dog while you're in court with somebody. But hopefully you'll have that reserve built up at the end of year 1. Unless year 1 is a really heavy year, then you might have to wait till year 2. But that is contemplated in these numbers, that you're going to want to have a reserve set aside over time. Then you'll be able to scale back this budget once you get some experience with the dog control function again. And I did have a lengthy conversation with the executive director of the SPCA, and it is not an option to go back there. I tried every angle that I could, and it is not an option. So this is where we're at. We do need the vehicle, we need some money this year to sort of be ready to hit the ground running on April 1st. And partnerships and whatnot, I think if those are naturally beneficial, mutually beneficial for everybody, then those can happen as we sort of mature into the service.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next to speak is Councillor Rhino.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to staff, you know, this centers around dog control supplies and things, the recommendation. Is that the correct terminology? I mean, should it be animal control? Would it be any other animal that we'd be dealing with, or was just dogs and that's it?
Yep, through you, Madam Chair, it is strictly only dogs that we.
Strictly only
that we only
dogs?
manage.
No stray cats, no snakes, no, okay?
Roosters.
Okay.
No roosters.
Just checking.
Thank you, Councillor. Next to speak is Councillor Mitchell.
Yes, it's just a follow-up question. My question deals with safety for staff, whether it's safety from the dog or safety from the owners. What's in place so that the person that's going out on the call is protected from what might arise? I'll put it that way.
Through you, Madam Chair, I mean, we do have an agreement with the RCMP that if we know there's something we're going into, we can contact them in advance. We also have the after-hours call center that can be managed, so we can use something through there to trigger in and out when calls come in. So I think we'll have to look a little bit further at our after-hours protocol as to what that will look like as well. So it's not finalized just yet.
So theoretically, they could go with somebody else could assist them on a call if needed?
Through you, Madam Chair, if that was something we chose to do, we can certainly look at that, yep.
Okay, that's it. Just want to protect Greg.
Okay, seeing no one left to speak,
Shirley, can you?
what is your wish? We have-
Madam Chair, there's a motion for.
Oh, there's a motion on the floor.
That
Okay.
can be all one motion, if that's.
We've discussed this one.
So,
Let's vote on it.
yeah. So for the first motion, we'll go to the vote. And the motion has passed unanimously. Is anyone prepared to make the second motion? Councillor Merriam?
To move the second motion that the Corporate and Residential Services Committee recommend that council approve an increase in capital project 23-019 to $96,000 for the purpose of purchasing a vehicle and required upgrades with funding to come from Municipal Vehicles Reserve G006, and that this purchase be authorized for fiscal 25-26 to be ready for an April 1, 26 operational start.
Okay, moved and seconded. Seeing no one to speak, we'll go to the vote. And the motion has passed unanimously. Okay, it's 11:38. We've reached our hour of adjournment. That's the last item for Corporate and Residential Services. Sorry, Councillor Mitchell?
Question through the staff. I heard you mention that you need the ASAP, is that correct?
The vehicle?
Yeah, the new vehicle, or you're good till April? Okay,
No,
thank you.
you've just passed that we buy it now. You've just passed that we buy it, or the council will pass that we buy it now.
Not until Thursday morning.
Coming back
Thursday
to.
morning.
Corporate and Residential.
These are just information.
Okay, this concludes our Corporate and Residential Services today. And, sorry,
We're adjourning to go into our
we are adjourning to go into our council policy.
Councilors, just while the warden sets up, There is an information report attached to your agenda for executive committee around new parking enforcement program. So if you want to pay some attention to that particular information report, you've been asking for stricter enforcement of parking. We have all of our dice in a row, I guess, ready to go with that. So that report's there for your information.
Okay, and also I just remembered something. Just for councillors, when we are finished up today, CCOA is taking position in their new building, and while they aren't open until Monday, we do have the opportunity to drop over there after our meeting today if anyone is interested in checking out the new build, and it's pretty impressive, so, okay. I declare the committee adjourned.
Are we ready to go, staff? Pardon? All right, so an early committee day, folks, so I will call our regular meeting of Council for Policy and in camera to order. I will begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kma'ki in the district of Sipekne'katik, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. East Hants further acknowledges the 50 African Nova Scotian communities whose 400-year history have contributed to the province's culture, history, and legacies. We are all treaty people. The first item of business today is the Corporate and Residential Services Committee report. Councillor Garden Cole, over to you.
Oh, I gotta read it up there. It's just a little bigger. The committee held its regular meeting December 9th, 2025 in council chambers. The following motions are coming forward as a result of this meeting. Item 1, council procedural policy update. Staff are recommending updating the council procedural policy to address 2 key issues: compliance with the new provincial regulations that prohibit hybrid codes of conduct, requiring the municipality to shift fully to the legislated provincial elected officials code of conduct and restore previously removed content back into the procedural policy. Implementation of council motion C-25313, which directs staff to establish requirements for groups wishing to speak to council or requesting funding to show organizational support. The proposed updates, including revisions to section 7.1, carry no financial impact. The Corporate and Residential Services Committee recommends to council that council give notice of intent to approve updates to the council procedural policy as attached to the Executive Committee agenda dated December 9th, 2025.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote.
Shirley. I'm
Someone has not voted, folks.
It's me.
You were not signed in because you were in the chair.
Just says not present. There we go.
Everyone's signed in again? And we will go to the vote again.
There we go.
And the motion is passed unanimously.
Item 2, revision to council remuneration and travel reimbursement policy. The current council remuneration and travel reimbursement policy does not allow for a meal allowance for executive committee meeting days. The proposed amendment to the policy would add new wording in section 5 that grants council members a meal allowance for lunch. This change is expected to cost approximately $2,541 annually. The Corporate and Residential Services Committee recommends that council give notice of intent to approve an amendment to the council remuneration and travel reimbursement policy to reflect new wording to section 5 dealing with a meal allowance for lunch on executive committee meeting days, as attached to the executive committee agenda on December 9th, 2025. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? I can't see if there is any or not, folks. the vote is still up on our screens here. Okay, seeing no one left to speak, we will go to the vote. And the motion is passed by a vote of 9-2, with Deputy Warden and Councillor Merriam voting nay.
As chair of the committee, I move the adoption of this report.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Contrary, motion is carried. Left on the agenda today are two in-camera sessions. The first one to discuss a land issue with Wade, and the second is a personnel issue with Jesse. So I will be looking for a motion to go in camera.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by the Deputy Warden. All those in favor? Contrary? Motion is carried. We will give staff time. tell us that we're Hey, I would report that we met in camera to discuss a land issue and a personnel contractual issue. Out of those discussions, we do have one motion coming forward. Counselor Tingley, I believe you were going to make that motion.
I'll move that council approve the addition of an additional supervisory level operator position to be added to the water utility staffing plan for the next fiscal, with that dated cost being submitted as an amendment to the current active water rate review.
We have a seconder, seconded by Counselor Mitchell. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously. And that concludes our agenda for today. So, seeing nothing else coming forward, I would declare our meeting